Well, greetings, everyone. My name is David McLeod. I am your life mastery coach, and this is MagnifEssence in Motion. Today, we're going to be doing episode number 29, and this is called Rise of the Soul Professional. Now, I'm sure everybody's noticed this. We're living through a profound shift in the way we view work, leadership, and the definition of success. For way too long, professional world has operated under the assumption that the only metrics that matter are titles, status, and of course the bottom line. But let's be honest, that treadmill is exhausting, and for many of us, it's beginning to feel empty. So today, I am delighted to be joined by a new guest for my program. Her name is Camille Miller. She is a soul strategist and business mentor, and we're going to talk about the rise of the soul professional. We're going to be moving past the outdated formulas of corporate rigidity and stepping into a future where business isn't just about survival or accumulation, but about alignment, which I think is really, really important. So please join me in welcoming Camille Miller into this program. She's I also forgot to mention, she's a best-selling author. So keep that in mind. She's got lots of great books out there that you can read, and I'm sure we're going to find out more about those as we proceed. So come on camera here, Camille, and we'll get going.
Here I am. Hello, David. Thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm delighted that I'm delighted that we were able to make this happen, because I know we had to go back and forth a few times to get the things all sorted out. But isn't that the way of the busy life?
It is. It is.
So I guess the way I'd like to start this, now I know that this is a really important thing for you. I believe your website is called soulprofessional.com. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. SOUL, I always say. Soulprofessional.com.
Right.
Yes.
You're right. I should have spelled that. So obviously this is something that's really important to you. And I'm assuming that I'm going to make a big assumption here that has no basis in reality, although it might by accident. That you've been very involved in the corporate world and decided that maybe the way things were working wasn't quite working for you. So tell us a little bit about your story and how you decided to shift over into this idea of soul professional.
Yeah. So my background is actually in not-for-profit management. So,
but it's still corporate though, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, it absolutely, because I was usually in very large nonprofits, so like universities and schools. And my last job before I did this, I was CEO of an organic agricultural regional one. And that's where I saw so many people like myself that were straddling these two worlds of logic and soul-led. And I was one of them. So I felt like I was showing up as a professional in my daily life, right? And then I would like take off that costume when I was home and be somebody else who was more spiritually led, cared what I, put in my body, believed in alternative medicine. And it was that job that really allowed me to blend those two worlds. Right. Because I also saw people like myself in it. We had, the Wall Street executives and the attorneys and the engineers and the CPAs, the lawyers, and they were eating organically, which is, a whole belief system that comes with that. So that's where I started to meet people like me. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's really something here. So when that job was defunded in 2015, I was trying to decide, well, like, what am I going to do next in life? I was getting older and I was like, I don't want to be in that situation where I'm defunded again, which always happens in not-for-profits. You get something going and then you lose your funding. And this was a big one. So I was like, okay, I'm going to bet on myself and start something on my own. And I really wanted to build a professional organization that lended credibility to the people that were following their passion, that really had social impact, that wanted to bridge those two worlds and be known for that. And it was in 2015, it was a much different world than it is today.
Oh my God, yes.
This was before Zoom, before like all of that. We started as a little coffee club. And
yeah.
I just started telling people my ideas like, hey, what if we had a professional organization, something like the Bar Association, the American Medical Association, something that large, where we could, lend credibility to each other, help each other with building our businesses, collaborate. And that's how it all started. It was really just the thought of, I would really like to have something like this in the world. I want to find others that are doing it too.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well,
Yeah.
and yes, I really enjoy how you frame it in terms of wearing a costume.
Yeah.
Because isn't that what we all do most of our lives? We put on masks, wear
agreed.
costumes, protect ourselves with armor, and hardly even show up as who we really are.
Yeah, agreed. I think we're taught that too. We're taught that we have to be a certain way, wear a certain thing.
That's
and
right.
That makes us more professional. And the corporate world really believed that. I think some of that is changing today, but there's still a corporate persona.
Right. Well, I'm not gonna diss the idea of a dress code. I think there's nothing wrong with having a dress code, and I do like the idea that when people show up to do something professional, they dress the part. I think that makes sense. However, even if you're putting on, like I'm wearing this shirt and jacket today, for example, which I generally don't wear, but I want these presentations to look professional. I want people to see that the folks I bring on board are professional people doing professional work. And, I want to elevate the level of consciousness about the kind of work. So if we were showing up in our pajamas and, hanging around smoking weed or something, well,
agreed.
That might not really, that might not look too serious, like agreed. We don't really know what we're talking about. And not to say that there's anything wrong with people who want to do that. I'm just saying this is my approach to life, right? But you're right. In a large way, we are kind of molded and shaped and conditioned and programmed and all the rest of it from the moment we come out of the womb until we go off on our own and live, our own lives. And even then, we start getting the same kind of conditioning when we go to work. It's really hard to show up as a whole, authentic, vulnerable human being in anywhere except in private circumstances. And so,
agreed.
For me, when I think of soul professional, I think of someone who is showing up authentically, even in the professional environment. So tell me, how do you bridge those two worlds and help people to become more soulful in their professional demeanor?
Yeah, so personally, it took a lot of inner work, right? Of just allowing myself to be authentic. But I also found that when I showed up exactly as I am, I attracted more people that were like me, right? So that law of attraction worked. When I'm showing up as I am, then others see that energy and are attracted to me. So that really helps. And as I've gotten older, I'm a little wiser. And, I've reached the age where this is who I am. Like, take it or leave it. I don't need more friends. So I think it's also an attitude, but I also think that society has caught up with that, especially after the pandemic, right? Where people are just like, I'm tired of the systems and the structure and everything that I had. And now I want it to be more like me, right? If I want to sleep in a little later or read in the morning or whatever, I can still be productive. It doesn't have to be between the hours of 9 and 5, right? And that's being authentic. I can say what I want to. I can show up how I do. I can do business differently than everybody else in the world, right? And then maybe that shows up in our services as well. Right. I do business strategy for service-based entrepreneurs all over the world. But I also do it in a way that's very soul-led. Like, I talk about the inner work. I talk about the coherence in your body. How does it feel when we market this way? Right? Because if it doesn't feel good, we're not going to do it. That's not being authentic.
Right.
So a lot of it is basing our business model around who we authentically are, how we want to show up in the world. If you don't want to work full time, don't. If you don't want to do video, don't. Right? If you don't want to post 5 times a day, don't. Right? So it's really working on the way you show up, because your people show up exactly the same way. Right? You are your client like 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that. Yeah, it's kind of like a metaphor that I have used with people. I talk about, when I first went to kindergarten, back when I was like 5 or 6 years old, however old I was. And I remember thinking how amazing those first graders were, Oh, look how awesome they are. I can't wait to be a first grader. And sure enough, soon enough, I was a first grader. And then I was thinking, oh my God, look at those second graders. They're so amazing.
Absolutely.
But when I got into first grade and I started looking back at the kindergartners, I said, oh, wait a minute. I was just there a little while ago. So I can help this guy back here to find his way into first grade. And the thing that I learned from that, as you said, you attract who you were 2 years ago. Well, it could have been 2 minutes ago. It doesn't matter. The point is, all of us are on our own path of growth. And the people ahead of us can reach back and help us move a little bit forward. And the people behind us are there. We can help them. You don't have to be the guru. You don't have to be the world's best at anything. What you know right now is something that can benefit the people who don't know it. And that's really, really important, I think, the whole idea of that. I also liked what you said about, well, first of all, attracting who I am, people like me into my life. That requires a high level of awareness. You talk about the law of attraction and being in alignment with who you really are. I like to use the word integrity, because integrity to me, it means a lot more than just my word is my bond. Integrity means that my thoughts, words, actions, and emotions are all in alignment. So, and not only that, but they're aligned with what I believe I am here to do in the big picture. That's to me what real integrity is. And if you can align yourself with that, then everything you do is going to be authentic. You're just going to naturally fall into that pattern. Yeah, and then, as you've already suggested, you get to take that authenticity and transform it into a competitive advantage.
Absolutely.
So talk a little bit about that.
So like we were saying, we attract who we are in the world. And I always say people, like, that's in friendships, that's in business, that's in everything we do. So if we are attracting the wrong people to us and we don't like our circle, we have to look in the mirror. It's us, right? It's something that we have to change. So I always say in business that there is no competition, because nobody can be me. Nobody can be you. You can give your business plan to somebody else, and many people have tried to copy mine, but it's never going to take away who was meant for me, because I am different than the person with the same business plan, right? If you think of all the people that have gone through medical school and all the people that have gotten through law school and all the people that have MBAs, we all got the same education, right? But when we need a doctor, a lawyer, an MBA, right, we are looking for that match of energy. Who resonates with me best, right? Who do I like? Who do I want to work with? That is the energy of the person, right? It's not necessarily their knowledge, because we all have a lot of the same knowledge, but how we express it in the world is very different, right? My energy is different than someone else's energy. How I do business strategy is very different than how other people do business strategy. So that's what's resonating through the world. That's how we dovetail those two worlds, the logical and the spiritual, of who we are. And I think the more we do that, the more we talk about our difference, our great differentiator, the more we will attract the right people to us.
Right. I understood. And so you talked a few minutes ago about being a business strategist.
Yes.
Is that how you frame what you do? And so you help people like me, for example, who are involved in the solopreneur kind of work, or in some kind of, helping, wellness kind of field. And tell me a little bit more about what it is that you do so that our listeners can understand more. Maybe, who knows, maybe you'll get some clients out of this.
Yeah. So the biggest thing I do is lead the Soul Professional Movement, which is a global call for purpose-driven entrepreneurs all over the world to come together, to help each other, to collaborate. And we work as a business incubator, not just a network, right? Many people end up collaborating with each other. Most of what I do is help people design the businesses that are in alignment with who they are. Part of that network is I have the Soul Professional Business School, where we teach business fundamentals through a soulful lens. So I'm a former MBA professor. I still teach the same curriculum, but I teach it in alignment with who you are. So the first 3 weeks of my Business Accelerator, which is my signature program, of getting a business all the way from concept to launch, and knowing your mission, your vision, your value proposition, your branding, your messaging, your packages, your follow-ups, all of it. That's my signature program. I forgot my train of thought now. And what was I saying? I totally forgot what I was saying. You had asked.
Well, you know what? So what matters is that you're still here.
Yeah.
I also want to just acknowledge that Renee just joined us. Welcome, Renee. Thank you for being here. If you have comments or questions, please feel free to post them in the chat, and we'll do our best to address those. I think the idea that businesses just magically come into being. I mean, a business plan is a good thing for sure, but you got to put some of yourself into it. And if you don't do that, then your business really isn't a reflection of who you are. And so there's a misalignment.
Agreed. And I think it's really important to mention that many times as people want to grow, they think visibility. Let me just get out there more. Let me just talk about it more. Let me post more. That is really not usually the problem, right? It's as many people try to grow, they lose that soulfulness or the foundation of why they did it in the first place. Right. So I work with a lot of people at those growth stage, either the beginning, the designing and just getting out to the market. And then maybe once they get into the market, how are they like surpassing 6 figures or multi 6 figures? And a lot of times they're forgetting those basics that they learned and the connections and the relationships that they made along the way. And they're doing things back in a pattern. Well, let me post 5 times a day. Let me do this. Let me do that. Right. And they get to the busy part, but they're really just doubling the amount of production that they're doing out there. They're not actually doubling their revenue.
Right. All right. So that's now an interesting point that you've brought up. Money. And let's face it, some of us are better at making money than others. Some people have a very negative view of money. Some people have all kinds of judgments about money and who has money and all kinds of stuff like that. How do you deal with people like that who say, well, I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it because I just want to help the world. How do you address people who have that kind of mindset?
Yeah, so we saw that a lot in 2020 as we went through the pandemic, and people were saying, well, I just want to give away my services. I just want to help. I just want to help. And my response was, you will go broke and then you will need the help. So who are we really helping? Right? You have to stand in your personal power and know that you are worthy of receiving pay for whatever you're bringing to the world. You have a gift. Everyone has a gift. We're all here for a purpose, right? And just because, even say you're a psychic or a healer or whatever you do in the world, you are not less valuable than someone who's a scientist or a medical doctor or anything else, right? So you have to keep your rates somewhere within the reasonableness, of society, so you can live a good, productive life, right? So we do have a lot of those, but most of those money wounds are limiting beliefs. It's something that we've grown up with. We see it a lot in women, especially of, I'm not worthy of, or I shouldn't do this, or I'm going to keep my rates low so more people come to me. But that's just trading time for money. That's not your value. Right.
Yeah.
And then as you start to grow your business and get more skilled and more experience, your rate should increase with your wisdom and knowledge. And a lot of people don't do that. They're stuck in their old programming. Yeah. So money is
I think I may
with slow professionals.
I may have some degree of that same blockage in my
You're
own.
not alone.
But I think the truth is, for me, I can't speak for other people. My truth is, I have a pretty good life. I don't really need a lot of money, so it's not like I need to go out there, and I'm not hungry. I'll put it that way. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe I need to starve myself a little bit. I don't know.
That's a choice. So if you choose to live that way, that's okay. But then don't put on the victim's hat. That's it's a very different choice, right?
That's right.
I live a very different life now than I did 10 years ago when I started this company. And it's not that I have more stuff and more things. I actually have less because I choose not to do the hustle that I did when I started this company. And now our company, or I should say our organization, is going to a community supported model. So I'm looking for the sponsorships, the affiliations, the power partners, the people that are going to help us grow in a way that feels in alignment, but not me on my back, not me doing one-on-one work. It's more like I like groups and stuff like that too, but it's how we can get this out in a way that's more collaborative, which is a different model than when I started, or I should say in the middle, because I was doing a lot and all of my money is pouring back into a free community. So I was like, this model has to change because as I'm getting older, I don't want to do as much. So I need to give those reins to someone else.
Right. As you progress along your journey, you're accumulating more knowledge and wisdom, which then you're going to be sharing it out to other people as well. And speaking of which, I notice you've got 3 books showing up over your shoulder there. So that, I believe, is an expression of your own wisdom and knowledge. Tell me a little bit about those books.
Yeah, that's a 3-part series. It's called The Ultimate Guide. I call it the Ultimate Guide series. It has a different one on Amazon. It's called The Ultimate Guide, something about Soul Professional, because it's my brand. The first one is The Ultimate Guide to Creating a Soul-Aligned Business, which is all about the first part of what does it look like to create the business? Why do you want to create it? The second one is The Ultimate Guide to Becoming a Successful Soul Professional, which is about growth and expansion and how you grow from solo to maybe having a small team or a membership or something bigger. And the third one is called The Ultimate Guide to Leaving Your Legacy. And that's about your imprint on the world. How are you going to be remembered when you leave or you're no longer the sole provider of your brand? What do you want to be remembered for, and building something, a brand like the Soul Professional brand, to leave to the world.
Yeah, nice. So now the other thing I'm noticing about these books, I can read your name from here, believe it or not, but I see a bunch of other text underneath. I assume that these were done as collaborations with other guest contributors. Is that right?
Yes, these 3 are a collaborative series.
Right.
And I'm working on a 4th that it's a solo book.
Got it. Yeah, I've done both. Have you been working with Laura DeFranco and her organization?
Yes. Yeah,
me too. So I've done a lot of these collaborations, and I'm working on a solo book right now. It's a big deal writing a solo book.
Yes. Yeah. It's a lot more time, a lot more research.
Right.
Yeah. I enjoy it. Though.
Yeah. And it's fun too, because I'm speaking for myself here. I enjoy the writing that I do. I love just getting it out there and seeing who reads it, getting the responses from people. That kind of helps me to see, okay, I'm touching the right nerves here, and I'm speaking about the right topics, which is good. And so it's a good feeling to have those books out there, whether they're collaborations or whether they're solo books. It makes no difference. It's all about spreading the wealth, getting the news out there, helping people in whatever way we can. So congratulations to you on that. I look forward to hearing about your fourth book when that comes out.
Thank you.
So awesome. Yeah. Now speaking of books, this kind of brings up the topic of, well, intellectual property. I mean, we all have some kind of intellectual property. And I guess ultimately when it comes to our business, that's what we're really selling. We're selling access to our intellectual property in a way. I mean, we're not licensing it the way some intellectual property is processed, but we are sharing it. So talk a little bit about how we can make how we can make better use of our intellectual property.
Well, I trademark all of mine, so that's one way you can do it.
So now that's a good point, and I want to put a pin in that, because trademarking is a kind of an important topic. But just speak in generalities first, and then we'll come back to the trademark thing.
So I think the most important thing for the solo entrepreneur, someone that's working on their own, is to use their name. So I, in the beginning, did not use my name. I used the company name. Our umbrella company is called the Natural Life Business Partnership, and that's how we started the whole company. That is still the umbrella company of the Soul Professional Movement, and then we have trademarks under that. But around 2023, I realized, oh my God, people don't know who I am. And if I was to break out of the brand or sell off the brand or do something, I haven't branded me. So I always remind people to brand your own name unless you really see a big company that's going to come out of this that'll be bigger than you, right? But you don't want to be left if you sell it or something changes or you lose it because you didn't trademark it, like whatever that looks like. Your name is your biggest brand. So that's how you want to be known in the world.
Okay. Yeah, and when you got a name like John Smith, it's pretty hard to brand that.
Well, you could use a middle initial. I use my middle initial because my last name is Miller. And there's a very famous singer out of Canada called Camille Miller. So if you Google Camille Miller, I won't come up. She'll come up on the first 3 or 4 pages. So I use my middle initial on absolutely everything I do. So it's Camille L. Miller. Or if anyone Googled Soul Professional, right? Because that's out there too. And I always put those 2 names out together so you'd get both. But it's really understanding the brand, and the brand of you is really important. So how you put your name out there is how you want to be remembered. It doesn't, especially for women, it doesn't have to be your actual name. It doesn't have to use your last name. A lot of women use their first and middle name because their last name changes, right? My last name, Miller, is not my maiden name, but once I divorced, I kept that name because that's how I'm known, and my children share that name.
Of course,
right?
Yeah.
I won't get rid of that name. I've had that name longer than I had my maiden name. So those are some choices that you have to make. A lot of women pick their first and middle name. They don't use their last name, and that's okay. That's your brand. Just stick with that brand. So you have to really think things through as you start to grow.
It's interesting that you talk about this. I get people who search for David McLeod generally don't find me, but they find David D. McLeod. I'm just number 1 pretty much everywhere on the list now. David D. McLeod. And Your Life Mastery Coach, of course, that's pretty unique. That's been my kind of my signature name. I own the website. Yep. I own pretty much every website associated with Your Life Mastery Coach. Yeah. But I also purchased My Life Mastery Coach.
Smart.
So now if you go to that one, it'll take you to Your Life Mastery Coach, which is just a thinking paradigm, right? I want to go to my life mastery coach. Oh, there it is. Your life mastery coach. It's speaking to you. I like it. I'm just clever that way. What can I say? Anyway, I have a lot of websites that are related that have the phrase life mastery in their title. And obviously I cannot possibly own that phrase. I can't trademark it because everybody and his dog uses life mastery, but I use it everywhere. And your life mastery coach is definitely trademarked. So now we can talk a little bit about trademarking as opposed to copywriting. They're two different things. So why don't you share a little bit about what it means to trademark something? What does it cost? What's the process and so forth?
Yeah, so I am no trademark attorney. I just like to preface it by saying this is not advice. Call your own attorney.
Right.
But I go through an attorney to trademark everything. I have a few trademarks. The Natural Life Business Partnership is a trademark. The Soul Professional, just those two words, Soul Professional. We use the movement, the business school, but Soul Professional is the actual one. Six Figure Souls I also own because I used to have a podcast to that name. We own it for a couple more years. I chose to legally do it because I always wanted a big brand. I think Soul Professional is probably the best brand I have. I still have the Natural Life Business Partnership. But that name is not as well known as the Soul Professional, which has become a big one because we've used it. And there was a hair company that also started to use it. And I called my attorney and I was like, I got a problem. I have a hair company starting to use this brand. And she's like, that's actually legal to use the brand name because they're using it in a totally different capacity. But on Google, we're fighting for it. Right. I didn't have to reach out to them. They changed their brand, which was just a smart move for them so they could be more exclusive. Because fighting on Google doesn't make any sense. Our brands were not in competition with each other, and I already owned the trademark. They could have owned it too, just like I could own Nike and do something else with it. Right. So trademarking is very specific to your niche, very specific. It took us 3 years to get the Soul Professional one because it was, they're like, well, they're two different words that can be used, but how do you use it together? And it took a lot. Yeah,
I did a lot of research about trademarks for myself. Yeah. It's my understanding that you can trademark pretty much. Well, you can't trademark anything, but you don't have to pay to start using the phrase trademark. Right. However, all that means is somebody else could start using it, and you really don't have a legal argument. You can take them to court. Then the judge will decide based on which one was showing up in the history the soonest. So the sooner you do it, the better off you are. That's the first thing. If you really want to do it properly, then the secondary and the more serious step is called registered trademark. And that's where a legal advice is necessary, where a lawyer comes into play and the lawyer can handle all the proper searches and everything else that needs to happen. And once you have that, now it's not TM anymore. Now it's the R with the circle around it. And that is much more serious. So anybody who starts using your registered trademark can be penalized and fined and all the rest. The TM version is much less formal, much less serious, and really it comes down to two guys reaching across a fence, shaking hands, and saying, "Okay, we'll stop doing it," and blah blah blah. So that's how I understand them. So really, anybody, and you got to be careful. You can't, for example, start trademarking the word paper. No matter what context, because everybody uses the word paper. But you might be able to trademark the phrase, eagle paper or something like that. Because now those two words together are not very commonly used, right? And so, look it up, go do some searches on the U.S. trademark website, the government website, and it'll explain all the rules. And of course, rules in Canada and other countries will probably be different. But I think generally speaking, they all kind of observe the same essential guidelines.
Yes.
Anyway, great conversation. Not something that I expected to talk about, but I'm glad we did.
Yes, agreed.
So, okay, so let's get back into our conversation here. We've been talking a little bit about authenticity. And, this is one of those things where authenticity is kind of it's almost a cliche nowadays, It's used so much in conversation. I mean, what does it even mean anymore? But I think that I like the word alignment now. When I find myself, like I mentioned earlier, that sense of integrity where my thoughts, words, actions, and emotions are all aligned in the same direction, which happens to be in alignment with my spiritual purpose for being, which is further aligned with who I really am. So
yes,
let's talk a little bit about how do we bring our essence, our true selves, our purpose, and who we are into the practical structure of our business.
So I agree that authenticity is being thrown all over the place. It's the new buzzword. We started using it a long time ago. We still use it because I don't think there is a word that's close to authenticity, as much as, your truth. That's the way I look at authenticity, right? It's your truth, your vision. And you had asked, how are we dovetailing that into who we are? Is that your question?
Well, that plus the idea of how do I bring all of that, the alignment, the purpose, and who I am into the structure of my business.
Yeah. First, it's acknowledging what it is. That's the most important, right? Understanding what is your purpose? What is your why? Like, why do you even want this business? Who do you want to serve? And what does it look like for you? So I came out of the not-for-profit world, but I knew pretty damn sure that I didn't want a board, right? But I do like working in groups. So I do have advisory councils that help me, but they don't have voting rights. Where a not-for-profit, they have voting and you can get outvoted and all of that stuff. So I knew how I wanted to set that up. So the first thing is knowing your own boundaries and how you want it to look, right? If you don't want to work, 5 days a week and you want to work 3 days a week, that's part of the structure of your business, right? If you don't want to do membership, then that's part of your business. If you love doing one-on-one work and that's how you want to structure it, that's what you do, right? You don't do a membership because everyone's doing it and you heard it brings in money, right? That's not how we don't structure based on what other people are doing. You structure on
shiny object syndrome.
Yeah. I had a very good paid membership for 10 years and I felt it after 10 years, it just didn't serve me the way it didn't fill my cup anymore. Right? I loved my people. I had met amazing people through my community. But after 10 years, I decided to let the paid go. And now, of course, we have the open access community because we're in 48 countries and many do not have the financial ability of an American. Right? So I wanted everyone to have access to me and my learning. And that's the way I wanted to do it, right? That's part of me being authentic and my truth. So how do I do it in a way that makes sense, right? I was funding it for a very long time through the paid membership. Now I don't have it. I have to look through a new structure that still allows me to follow my purpose and my vision, but I have to do it in a different way because I don't want it to be paid anymore. Right. And I did have a venture capitalist come in that was looking at my brand and they're like, we need to bring this back and this is how it has to. And I was like, yeah, that's actually not what I want to do. So I was like, yeah, so this isn't going to work.
Yeah, right. The moment you bring in the money, then you have to answer to the money. Yeah.
Right. And that was the problem with not-for-profits. Your biggest donor could take you so off your mission. I used to call it mission creeping. Right?
Yeah.
And the whole board be like, oh my God, we can't say no. Let's just go do this anyway. And it's like, that's not even our mission. Why are we doing this?
Right.
And I hated that about the nonprofit world. We were mission creep all over the place, to get donations that, was money, but not always where we needed it. Right. I didn't like that. So when I created this company, it was actually it was to serve the better good and not have a board that can mission creep. So we can stay absolutely in alignment with what we're trying to do. Right.
Beautiful.
So as we bring in partners, I need to be very clear with them. This is what we're trying to do. We want to build up our affiliates, our sponsorships, our revenue streams, and we have to do it in a way that keeps what we do open to everybody. Everybody. Right? It's not who can afford us, but it's how do we get it out to everybody. And we hope those that use it, that have the ability to pay, will donate, will help others. That's the model, right? So it's how do you blend you into your business model? It's by putting up boundaries. It's not allowing things that don't feel good to you.
Yeah. That's a really, really good point, I think. And I know of a recent experience that I can't share details because there's some confidentiality here, but trying to engage someone in business with me who seemed very excited about participating, and then made a proposal that, I might have considered, except that proposal became a condition of this person's involvement. And I said, sorry, I'm not doing that. That's, I don't respond well to ultimatums or threats or any of that stuff. I said, if you're interested and you want to do it and you're in, great. Now, once that decision is made, then the second decision can be made independently. And maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't, but I'm not going to do it because you join. So this is something that, sometimes it takes chutzpah, shall we say, to just stand up and say, no thanks. No thanks. Yeah. It's important. It was important in my not-for-profit days. It's important as I move forward. And now that we're bringing in preferred partners and sponsors, I have to be really, really sure that we are on the same page and that they honor my community, because there's tens of thousands of people that follow us now and are a part of our community, and we have to make sure it's good for everybody. That's really very, very important. And of course, that's all part of being authentic to who you are anyway, right?
Agreed. Yeah.
I mean, if you start capitulating, then who are you really honoring? That's always a question that we have to ask ourselves. If I capitulate here, who benefits? Great question. Key bono. Well, clearly, this person over here is going to benefit by this decision. How about me, and how about my community? How about my business? Is that going to benefit as well? Is this something that we both want? Very, very important question. So thank you for bringing this up.
You're welcome.
So then now let's talk a little bit about this idea of success. I think I mentioned this at the beginning. People often think of success in terms of how much money do I make, how many cars do I have, how many homes, blah, 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 blah. And because money is a great reference to, well, if I'm making money, then I must be doing something right because people are paying me, and so on and so on and so on. But really, what's the true measure of success?
I think it's different for everybody. I am personally past that point of material wealth. I absolutely went through that phase and thought things mattered. It no longer matters. In fact, the older I get, the less I have by choice. My father used to tell me that whatever you choose to do in life, make sure if you won the lottery, you would still get up and do it tomorrow. Right. And that means
that's
absolutely
a great piece of advice.
Yeah. Absolutely loving what you do, so you would do it for free. right?
Right.
And that's what has always driven me. Like, would I do this for free? I would
Yeah.
still do exactly what I'm doing, right? And that's
Yeah.
part of the self supporting community. It's like, it doesn't have to be on my back, right? I could give, but it doesn't have to be on my back. I need other people
Right.
that feel this way too. Yeah. So to me, that is authentic success for me. And I think that's a good barometer for other people.
Right. I think success in my world is measured not in terms of, dollars and cents and
Mm-hmm.
and rewards and all that kind of stuff, but more in terms of how much love and compassion and forgiveness and integrity I feel.
Yeah.
Because what I've noticed is when I maximize those things that I really value in my life, the money kind of takes care of itself. The
Mm-hmm.
other aspects, the other metrics that we apply to success seem to take care of themselves. And I think that's what we've been talking about in this whole conversation. The more I show up as a real human being and attract the right kind of people into my life,
Yeah.
the greater fulfillment and satisfaction I'm going to experience, and consequently, the greater the rewards will come that happen to be there as well. And those
Agreed.
rewards, they may not be monetarily huge, but that doesn't matter. You're not doing it for the money to begin with. You're doing it because of those other things that matter. That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of how I see it now.
Yeah. A good business model is something that you're not hunting for money all the time, but money is the byproduct of you getting to do what you do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I can't remember if this was like a Buddhist teaching or what. Do the work you love and you'll never work another day in your life, or some. I
Yes.
seem to remember that quote. And what I noticed for me is it doesn't mean that you're not putting in effort or anything like that. But we're taking the word work and we're transforming it into doing something I love. I'm still moving. I'm still doing exactly the same things. I might be digging the same ditches,
Mm-hmm.
or cleaning the same toilets, but I'm doing it with a different attitude, and it's the attitude that makes the difference, not the choice of
Absolutely.
work.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And so,
Same idea.
yeah. So I'm still working, but I'm enjoying it more, so it doesn't feel like work. And I think that's what that parable or whatever really means.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think it goes back to what my father said, that you would do it anyway,
That's right.
right? That's when you're really in your passion.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have to say, I don't know about you. Well, I can tell you're a pretty passionate woman. I can tell just from your demeanor here. So, what I've noticed about my own life is that I actually enjoy getting up in the morning now.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't have the pressures that I had to deal with before. I get up, I walk my dog, I do some yoga, I have a great meditation, have some breakfast, and then I get down to the nitty gritty of making the business work, and it's
Same.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, your
I like
schedule's
the
probably not exactly the
flexibility.
same, but I'm sure you have something similar.
It's very similar. I have quieter mornings. I do yoga 3 times a week, but it's part of my schedule. Like, I don't start till late on those days, today being one of them, Wednesday. I start later, I work a little later if I have the work.
Yeah.
So being an entrepreneur also gives me that flexibility. That's beautiful, but it allows me to show up how I need to. If I feel very creative, I can write or do a creative project. If I feel very brainy that day, I can do my finances or write to people, or whatever that looks like. I usually get up and feel something,
Right.
and I
Yeah,
just
and
kind of go with it.
right. That's the important part, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tuning in, becoming aware, What is my essence calling for today? What is the universe calling forth from me today?
Yes.
Yeah, that's really what getting into your soul is all about. And if you are a professional and you are you're doing that kind of practice, that's kind of what makes you a soul professional.
Correct. We say a soul professional is someone that lives in a higher vibration, has an alternative approach to business, and is here to help repair the world.
Love it. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really nice. Yeah. Well, Camille, this has been an awesome conversation. I just want to thank you, first of all, for taking the time to be with me. Do you have any final words or suggestions or recommendations for people? And do you have a link they can go to and you could just drop the link in the chat there, that people can go to find out more about you?
Yeah, you can absolutely go to soulprofessional.com. I will try to grab that link for you and get all of the information about everything that I spoke about. So about our movement, our network, our business school, all of our events are free. So I lost you now. Where am I? Here I am. I went to go get the link and lost it. All of our stuff is free. So if it's our networking, we have, I run a soul circle. We have healing circles. I have master classes on YouTube. You can get to all of it from the link that I'll share, which is soulprofessional.com.
Have you spotted? Have you found it? There you go. There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, that link will now be in the recording. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And so any suggestions, any advice, any final words you'd like to share with people before we wrap this up?
Yeah, other than joining our community, if this resonates, and you don't have to have a business, if you're just a seeker and wondering, we would love to talk to you. You can still come to our networking. It's for seekers as well. But to really think and do some inner work about what is your purpose? What do you want to do? Who do you want to serve? Because we all go through those moments of reinvention, right? Even if you love what you do, sometimes it's about thinking about your future self and who you want to be. What do you want to leave in the world? And we're constantly reinventing. So you also have to shed what no longer serves you. And that's the hardest part, right? Shedding what no longer serves you, something that you may have created, like my membership. And then I had to say, it's not filling my cup anymore. Let me let that go and see what this next chapter looks like. And my best advice, and I'm in this right now, is just surrender. Surrender to what is possible.
That was the word I was going to use. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm in this place of surrender right now because as we move into our next chapter, I'm not really sure how it's going to happen. I don't really have the clue, but I know it's about collaboration. I know it's about working with others, and I need to really lean into that and just be hopeful. So I'm in surrender about all of that. Yeah.
Right. And just for the record, I want people to know that surrender doesn't mean giving up or giving in. It just means that you are allowing, really, you're letting go of any expectations and allowing the universe to provide for you. That's the way I view surrender. So,
Same.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, Camille, for being here. It's been really a pleasure to share this space with you and to learn more about you and your business and how you help people. And I want to thank all of you who are watching this. And Renee, thank you for being here on the live presentation. If this is the first time you've seen one of our programs, please click that like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel, and click on the notification thing as well so that you can get notification about any new videos that are coming up. Meanwhile, you can also check out episodes on my website at yourlifemasterycoach.com. And I just want to thank you for being here on MagnifEssence in Motion, The Rise of the Soul. Before I close, I want to just give you my 3-sentence mantra that you can use anytime, any day. And I hope you use it repeatedly because it's a powerful way of grounding you and bringing you present into your life. 3 sentences, goes like this. I gratefully forgive the imperfect being I have been in the past. I gratefully accept the magnificent being I am right now. I gratefully welcome the evolved being I am becoming in each new moment. So thank you everyone for being here. I wish you love, light, and blessings on your continuing journey, and we'll see you next time on MagnifEssence in Motion. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.